A woman, clearing out her late father's garage, found a battered old pair of gold-framed aviators in a drawer, scratched lenses, a cracked leather bridge, and decided they were beat-up 70s junk nobody would want. She dropped them in a yard sale box for $3. The buyer didn't blink. Those were Bausch and Lomb Ray-Ban aviators, made in America before the brand was sold, the kind serious collectors hunt and pay real money for, and the family never knew. That's not a coincidence. The sunglasses didn't become valuable the day they left the garage. They were always valuable. The value was lost the moment they passed from someone who didn't know what they held to someone who did, and that gap is where almost all the money in the vintagey eyewear world lives. Here's the thing nobody tells you about sunglasses. There are two versions of almost every famous brand, the one made before the corporate takeover and the one made after. The name on the temple stays the same. The factory, the lenses, and the quality do not. That single distinction, invisible to almost everyone, is the difference between a $3 cast-off and a pair worth hundreds or thousands. To you, an old pair looks scratched, dated, and unwearable. To a collector, it's a maker, an era, a lens type, an etching, a set of details that decide which side of that line you're on. The real question isn't whether old sunglasses are worth money. It's why the valuable ones stay so cheap in the owner's hands, and who benefits from the fact that you can't tell them apart by looking. The answer is the same for both. Knowledge here sits in very few hands. It's rarely volunteered, and a whole resale economy runs on that imbalance. So here are 10 old sunglasses, by name, that ordinary people own, without knowing they're worth a fortune. One warning first, and it matters more than anything else. Do not clean the lenses with anything abrasive. Do not polish the frames, and above all, do not replace the scratched original lenses with new ones. On vintage eyewear, the original glass is most of the value, and the tiny etchings on it are the proof of authenticity, so scrubbing them off or swapping them out destroys the very thing a collector is paying for. The first is the Bausch and Lomb Ray-Ban Aviator, and this is the one most likely to be sitting in a drawer in your house right now. Bausch and Lomb, an American optical company founded in 1853, designed and patented the Aviator in 1937 for U.S. military pilots, and they made every Ray-Ban until the brand was sold to Luxottica in the late 1990s. That sale is the entire story. Pre-Luxottica frames were made in the USA with mineral glass G15 lenses, gold-filled metalwork, and precision hinges. The modern versions are typically plastic-lensed and mass-produced, and collectors will tell you flatly that they are chalk and cheese. The tell is small and decisive. Look for a tiny BL etched into the lens itself, an engraved model number inside the temple, and a Made in USA stamp. Those etchings are the mark of authenticity and excellence, and the presence or absence of them can be a several $100 difference on a pair that looks otherwise identical. Flip them over, read the temple, check the lens for the etching, and leave them exactly as they are. The next pair is even older and even more overlooked. The second is the early wartime Aviator, the 1940s and 1950s Bausch and Lomb pieces with the rare 52mm lenses, smaller than the common 58mm aviators everyone knows. These are a piece of military heritage, originally made for Army Air Corps pilots, and the tell that separates them is a marking most people would never look for: 1/10 12K GF, stamped on the frame, meaning 1/10 of the metal is 12-karat gold, the gold-filled plating. Surviving early aviators in excellent condition are extremely rare after 70 years, because they were work equipment, worn hard and thrown away. The seller sees old scratched glasses. The buyer reads the gold fill stamp and the lens size, knows exactly what they're holding, and pays without negotiating. If that surprised you, The next is the one whose value comes from a single Italian name most people can't pronounce. The third is the Persol 714, the folding sunglasses that were an engineering marvel of the 20th century. The first ever collapsible folding frame, folding down to not much bigger than a single lens. Steve McQueen wore a pair of 714s in the 1968 film The Thomas Crown Affair. And here's the part that matters. They weren't even part of the costume. He turned up on set wearing his own foldable Persols in light Havana with blue crystal lenses, and the producers wrote them into the film. That accident made them an icon. The authentication tell is inside the stems, the Ratti and 6200 markings on the older Italian-made pairs, plus the Meflecto system, the little metal pins in the arms that give them their flex. A vintage 714 in honest condition is a genuine collector's piece, and a pair that actually belonged to McQueen sold at auction for over $70,000. Don't dismiss the funny folding glasses in the case. That folding mechanism is the whole point. Now the list shifts to the pairs where a single lens type or dial level detail changes everything. The fourth is the specialty lens Ray-Ban, the models most people have never heard of because they were tools, not fashion. The Calichrome shooters, with their high-contrast yellow hunting lenses in gold-filled frames, sometimes with the distinctive bullet hole temples, the ambermatic photochromic lenses that darkened in sunlight, the Chromax, the changeables, the mirrored G31 glacier lenses on the Arctic cats with their leather nose covers and folding side blinkers to keep out snow glare. These look bizarre and specialized, which is exactly why they get thrown away, and exactly why collectors chase them. The value driver is the lens itself, its type, its coating, and whether it's the original Bausch and Lomb glass or a modern replacement. Two near-identical frames can be worlds apart, depending on what glass sits in them, and only the person who reads the lens knows which is which. The fifth lesson is the one that costs people the most without realizing it, and it's about what came in the box. With vintage eyewear, originality and completeness are the great value drivers, and that extends far beyond the frames. The original case, often branded and specific to the model. The original paperwork, the tags, the cleaning cloth, the little booklet, the receipt. On a rare pair, a full set with the original case and documentation commands a substantial premium over a bare frame, and on a Provenance piece, a letter of authenticity is what makes the value real. McQueen's Persols came to auction with their original case and a letter of authenticity, and that documentation is precisely why the price went where it did. Here's the cruel mechanics. The glasses go in a drawer to be kept. The case gets tossed during a move because it's just a case. The tags and papers get thrown out as clutter, and years later, the most value-additive things you could have kept are gone, because the people who buy bare frames from people who didn't know to keep the rest are doing just fine with that arrangement. In a market absolutely crawling with counterfeits and reproductions, that case and paperwork are evidence, and evidence removes risk for the buyer, which is exactly what they pay extra for. So keep everything, the case, the tags, the papers, the cloth, the receipt, and do not sell sunglasses in a bulk lot of old glasses, because the value of a whole box can sit in one pair nobody recognized. The sixth takes that bulk lot danger to its most expensive extreme, and it's the pair hiding inside the box that's worth more than the entire box. The original Bausch and Lomb Wayfarer, the 5022 in its 1960s production, with the coveted G15 crystal lenses, is the pair most likely to be dismissed as a common plastic frame. But pre-1998 B&L Wayfarers have superior mineral glass G15 lenses with the BL etching, and rare colorways, like a metallic rust finish, turn an ordinary-looking pair into something collectors fight over. The danger is that they get swept into an estate clear-out where someone offers a single round number for all the old glasses in the drawer, and the genuine B&L Wayfarer gets absorbed into the lot alongside a dozen worthless drugstore frames. The family sees a fair-sounding total and takes it, relieved to be done, and the buyer walks out having paid a fraction of one pair's value for everything. This is where the most people lose the most money, not because the glasses looked like junk, but because they were disguised inside a fast transaction designed to prevent itemization. Grief and exhaustion are the picker's best friends. So the rule, plainly, never sell eyewear in a bulk lot. Never accept one price for all of them. Photograph every pair, read every temple, check every lens for etchings, and research each one separately, because the entire value of a drawer can sit in one pair you didn't recognize. The seventh is the pair where value comes not from the model at all, but from who wore them and what they were worn for. Provenance in eyewear is one of the strongest value multipliers in the market, and the record proves it. McQueen's own 714s went for over $70,000. Tom Cruise's Wayfarers from Risky Business, John Lennon's T-shades, Jackie Kennedy's oversized frames, Audrey Hepburn's cat eyes, each of those associations turned an object into an artifact. The same logic runs down to the military-issue pairs, the goggles, the mission-issued frames with their service markings, where an engraved number or a unit stamp proves the history. Those marks and that documentation are not clutter to be cleaned off or thrown away. They are the pair's identity. And this is where I repeat the warning at its most emphatic, because well-meaning owners destroy provenance constantly. They polish the frame, they replace the scratched lens, they toss the beat-up original case with the fading letter inside it, and in doing so, they erase the evidence that made the pair worth anything at all. Evidence cleaned away is value destroyed forever. So if there's a letter, a case, a stamp, or a photograph of a relative wearing them, keep all of it together, because the story is the fortune. We've covered makers, lenses, cases, bulk lots, and provenance, and the last three pull all of it together, starting with the detail that separates a treasure from a convincing fake. The eighth is the counterfeit and reproduction problem, because vintage designer sunglasses are among the most widely counterfeited objects on Earth, sold knowingly and unknowingly, with aftermarket parts and Luxottica-era reproductions flooding the market. The authentication method is precise: macro-level lens etching, hinge anatomy, and serial and model numbers. Real pre-Luxottica B&L frames feature hand-cut acetate, etched glass lenses, and riveted hinges that outperform modern equivalents. A repro gives itself away in the hinge design, the lens material, and the absence or sloppiness of the etching. Here's the irony that runs through this whole hobby. A scratched, honest, original glass lens with a genuine BL etching beats a flawless, modern replacement every time, because the flawless one is the fake. So when you research, do not look at active listings, the pairs currently for sale with hopeful asking prices, because anyone can ask any number, and those are fiction. Look at sold listings, what pairs actually changed hands for, and match the exact model, lens, and era. Active listings tell you what sellers wish. Sold listings tell you the truth. The ninth is the brand that got bought, and this is the master key to the whole category, the name-stayed, factory-changed story, in its purest form. Bausch & Lomb sold Ray-Ban to Luxottica in the late 1990s, and modern Ray-Bans are no longer produced in the USA or with the same B&L lenses. Persol, too, is now Luxottica-owned. The name on the temple is identical. What sits behind it is not. So a familiar brand name tells you almost nothing on its own, and this cuts in both directions. A modern pair with a famous logo may be worth its retail depreciation and nothing more, while an unglamorous, unfamiliar-looking pair from the pre-acquisition era can be the prize. It also creates a specific trap, because Luxottica-era reproductions of classic models look deliberately like the originals. You judge a pair not by the logo, but by the country of manufacture, the lens etching, the hinge construction, and the era, the things the people who know read fluently, while everyone else reads only the brand. The 10th is the grail, the pair where every principle compounds at once, and the ceiling climbs out of sight, the most extreme version of the central truth, that the value was lost the moment it passed from someone who knew to someone who didn't. At the very top sit the pairs that don't look like much, solid gold Cartier frames, the Romance and Vendôme pieces in yellow and white gold with full hallmarks and enamel work, which are jewelry as much as eyewear and are valued accordingly. Runway archive designer pieces, produced for a matter of months, like the Chanel frames from Karl Lagerfeld's 2007 collection with their signature wavy temples, which trade around $2,150 precisely because they were made in tiny numbers for a brief window. The short-run Oakley X metal pieces, produced for barely a year in the late 90s, in small quantities, and now fiercely collected, and the Carrera Porsche design collaborations from 1979 with their interchangeable optil lenses and spring-loaded hinges. These surface in ordinary drawers because their significance is invisible to the untrained eye. A normal person sees a weird old pair of glasses and has no idea they're holding gold, an archive piece, or a discontinued grail. Every lesson converges here. Original lenses and etchings, the maker and the era, the case and papers, the provenance, the warning never to polish or replace the glass, and the venue, because where you sell matters as much as what you sell. A rare pair sold to a thrift shop, or a general marketplace, or a bulk estate buyer, is sold to whoever walks by, while the person who will actually recognize and pay for it is a vintage eyewear specialist who authenticates by etching and hinge and knows exactly what the model numbers mean. So here's the checklist that flips you from the person being collected from to the person who knows. Don't clean the lenses abrasively. Don't polish the frames. Don't replace the original glass. Leave every honest scratch where it is. Flip them over and read the temple and the lens. Look for BL, for Made in USA, for a model number, for 1/10 12K GF, because the shape of the frame is only the beginning, and the etchings are the truth. Keep everything, the case, the tags, the papers, the letter. Never sell in a bulk lot. Itemize and research each pair on sold listings, not active ones. And when you've found something real, take it to a specialist, not a passerby. If you recognized even one of these, hit the like button and comment below if you've got an old pair you can't identify, especially the scratched and ugly ones, and I'd be happy to take a look. Subscribe if you want the part of the market the resellers already know and won't share. Because the truth under all 10 is simple. These sunglasses were never worthless. They were built to look like the ones people throw away, and the only thing standing between you and what they're really worth is knowing. That's not a coincidence either.